Okay, cool. So, welcome to AI Talks, the number one AI podcast in the world. Episode 7. This today we're gonna be talking about the future of AI, and I have a great guest with us today. We have Zachary Ransom. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. It's good to be here.
Perfect, perfect. Sounds good. So yeah, we're just gonna do a little bit of some introductions at the beginning. I'm gonna go ahead and start. I'm a senior at ADSU. Uh, this is gonna be my last semester. I graduate in May. Excited to learn more about AI and use that in my marketing efforts for Gen AI X. And yeah, I'll just hand it off to Zachary then.
All right. My name is Zachary Ransom. I'm a product manager with GenAIX, and I've been using AI and creating tools with AI for, gosh, the last 8 years or so. So, yeah, it's good to be here and good to talk about this topic with you.
Awesome, awesome, perfect, perfect. So I do want to start off with this little segment that I do every time. It's just what AI have you used this week? And I'll go ahead and start right here. I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah.
So we're making videos in the company about kind of tools that have been helping us. And I know I shouted out this tool a while ago, but it's called Storm AI. I think it's a great tool because it's so easy to kind of go on there and research about topics, especially the student. If I have an essay to do, if I have a writing assignment, if I have something that I need to talk about or presentation, it's super easy to go on this AI tool and search the topic up. And it'll give me like a 4-page PDF with links to articles that is taking sources from, and all in just 3 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. And I think it's a great tool. And if at this point, if AI isn't helping you in your little workflow, I think that definitely check our channel out. We have a lot of tools that a lot of the people in our team are using. And I'm gonna hand it to Zach for his tool.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I use ChatGPT like every single day,
Oh, who doesn't? Yeah.
and it's usually just like I'll use it for like mundane stuff, like emails. Like I'll write an email and then like I'll throw it in the ChatGPT, like just to like check like my tone, and make some updates on it, and before sending it, just because like email. I think email communication is so big because so many things can get lost in translation or taken out of context. So I want to make sure that like I'm delivering it in the voice or in the tone that I want my recipient to receive it in. So I definitely use ChatGPT all the time. But
Right.
more recently, I started using SlideGo, which is like an AI tool that like generates PowerPoint slides for you with like very minimum prompts. It's like really cool. Like if you want to create a pitch deck, you can essentially, create a slide deck, this number of slides, and then you can add like any sort of like statistics or anything you want, and then it'll create the slides for you, and then you can go through and kind of update it how you want. So it's
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool. It
great. Does it
saves a
go into
lot
like
of
the theme and all that too? Can you like change up the theme of the how the
yeah.
slides
You can
look?
you can change the theme, you can
Oh,
change the
great.
layout. Yeah, I mean it for someone like for someone who's using PowerPoint a lot, I imagine just creating a deck and having a template that you like, you know, is a lot of time. So just being able to like even knock out that and just for even if you just use it as an outline, I mean it kind of gets you like I would say like 75% there with a couple clicks of a button. So like it just like saves an immense amount of time, which is awesome.
Right, perfect. So yeah, that's it's like 75%. You still got to edit a little bit, but
Yeah.
most of the mundane stuff that everybody needs to edit when they make a presentation, that's all being automated in
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
tool.
And
No, that's
I mean,
great.
I think this is a good way to kind of segue into kind of some of the conversation that we're going to be having about AI is like what is AI going to be used for, and it's getting rid of some of that mundane work. And
Yes.
is it going to be taking everyone's job, or is it going to be helping people with their job? And it's going to be a little bit of both, right? But I think for the majority of people, it's going to help them with their job. So think about you're, an analyst, like a low level analyst, and you've just got tasked with creating a slide deck for, presenting to, a client or presenting to your boss or your manager or whoever. You go
Yep.
to SlideGo, just have to, you got to, you know, make it, your own, but like you've got the outline in a matter of minutes. So I think,
Right.
I mean, it's really going to help, that analyst or that, that junior analyst who's creating that slide deck, create that slide deck instead of, I remember when I was kind of like a junior analyst coming out of college, having to create slides and stuff like that stuff takes forever. But now you can, do it in a matter of minutes, and they still need you. You're the one doing the analytics. You still have to present it. But it just saved you a whole bunch of time that you can dedicate elsewhere. Um,
Right.
especially like if you're a consultant and you got like billable hours, and sometimes you're on multiple projects at once, and so any time you can save, efficiency. It's all
Yep.
efficiency.
Definitely, I agree. Look, you took the words right out of my mouth. I love that I didn't. I was literally gonna say the exact same thing you just said. I was like, look, we can go right into automation from right here. That was perfect. But but yeah, 100% I agree. I think that you know there's a lot of fear out there about what AI is going to take from us. How is my whole job gone? Is everything that I do going to be automated? No, it's not. It's only the parts that are basically mundane and the parts that can be automated. There's a lot of human intervention that is used for every job that is out there, and that is still very much needed. And honestly, even more so now, even more
Yeah.
so sought after. And I think that that's a great point to get into. And so I do want to ask you, I want to ask you about your work in Gen AIX. I want to ask you how has AI like kind of revolutionized your work at Gen AIX when it comes to the platform development, and I want you to kind of get into that as well.
Well, I think right now at Gen IAX, we're still, still very much in, startup mode. We're still very much trying to get content out there and be able to get eyes on, the incredible work that our consultants are doing. So I wouldn't say it's kind of revolutionized the things that I've been doing, but I've definitely seen how it's revolutionizing the things that our consultants are working on, and that's going
Yep.
to kind of trickle down to everybody at
Okay.
some point. But it's also at the same time, it's making me step up my game, and making me kind of pay closer attention to what's going on in the market, the trends regarding AI.
Gotcha. No, no, I agree. I think so. So when it comes to what do you see the AI consultants that are doing with AI?
So just in some of their, I mean, I know they're working on an app right now. I can't give too much details,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
but they just finished up, I think, their first sprint, and I mean, just the speed at which they're able to move, because they're using AI is just incredible. Stuff
Right,
that would take maybe a month, they're doing in like 2 weeks. So it's really incredible seeing the speed at which they're being able to move.
right, completely. Do you see like so in the future, let's talk about the future. So when it comes to, making, whether that's consulting with AI, whether that's, kind of producing your own kind of content or producing your own kind of projects, do you see there needs to be more education on kind of, how to be more creative, or do you think that like where do you think that education on all these topics is going to go in the future?
I mean, the education on this topic is so broad because there's so many different areas of AI, and there's going to be so many different opportunities, with AI, like all sorts of new jobs that are going to come out because of AI. We talked about earlier about how AI is going to help you in your current role. Like, we gave the business analyst example, but I mean, pretty much any job right now is going to have an AI component. Like you think about like researchers, they're testing different maybe chemicals to come up with a next drug, and they're putting a little bit of hydrogen here, a little bit of there, a little bit of this, and doing thousands of simulations to see what's going to be the perfect combination. But you'll be able to do that in like a fraction of the time by using AI. And so
Right.
those people who may they're still going to need like their medical and their science background, but then they're also going to have to be able to use these AI tools. Maybe they're going to need to learn how to code and create scripts for this, but it's only going to help them in their job. And if they're not willing to do that, there's going to be a new crop of researchers who are willing to do that,
Right.
who those are be the people that lose out.
Right. Completely, I agree. I
Yeah.
think, now is a time to definitely understand what is going on. How many, because with when it comes to Gen AI consulting, we are trying to put on a platform which that you can all the new AI that comes out every week. When it comes to, there's DeepSeek, there's ChatGPT, there's all these new AI tools to code, there's all these new AI tools when it comes to front end and back end development. Like when it comes to the speed at which these tools are being put out there and produced. I think that it's just a great tool, a great place to go and see how I can, learn about the new topics and learn about the new AI tools that are coming out. And I do want to ask you, how do you kind of stay on top of that? How do you go search up on the news? Do you kind of, like, what's your kind of outlet to understand what's happening in the AI space? Because it's changing every week.
Yeah, so I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to thought leaders. So that's how I'm kind of staying up on what's what. Yeah,
Perfect. If I were to ask you,
and being a part of it, like working at Gen X, like helps me, stay on top of what's going on in the industry. And it's also by being in charge of the education platform. We have to put out content about AI, so that's also making me like scour and use new tools that I wouldn't have used before. So
right.
that's so not only am I kind of staying relevant by paying attention to thought leaders, but also getting my hands on some of these tools as well.
Right, right. So I know you said previously you've had about 8 years of experience in AI. Could you kind of go into like what technology or what kind of tools that you have now that you wish you would have had, like probably like about 8 years ago, I guess, like when you started out, like how has that changed?
I would say things are moving quicker. Like
Yeah.
we've had AI, for a while. Um, but I also think maybe to take a step back, I think it's also interesting how AI has kind of evolved. Like I think, and even now, I think like, you say AI and what does that mean? That can be a million different things. That
Right,
could be, robotics, being able to train a robot to, do human functions, but it also could essentially be machine learning where you're just like having a tool learn from inputs that it's getting. So it's a very large spectrum of what like AI is. Like one of my earlier projects in AI, I was working for a company that did AI in the operations space. So if you think
okay,
about like your large security network operations centers where you have operators staring at a screen all day looking at events. An event is like anything that a device is giving off, any sort of like notification. So if you think about like a server, routinely pretty much saying like, everything's fine, systems are normal. But like, that's boring. Nobody wants, especially if you work for like a large corporation. Like think about like maybe like a Pepsi Cola where, you've got hundreds of thousands of servers and operations all over the world. Like,
yeah,
nobody wants to sit and look at a screen of like this server in Houston is good, this server in London is good. You really want
right,
to focus on the bad stuff, the Sev one, Sev zeros that are going to like take down your infrastructure. So this tool using AI kind of filtered out what we call noise, the stuff that I mentioned before, like server in Houston is working, and just focus on those things that potentially could be Sev one or Sev two incidents. And so they would try to, once they've identified them, they would try to like group them to see if there's like a causality between them. Like if there's a server down in Houston and a server down in Dallas, are they down for the same reason? Like is this a larger, concern? But either way, we're going to push that to the top so our operators can lower their mean time to acceptance and then mean time to resolution. So like, okay, I've acknowledged there's an issue because the tool I'm using just push this server issue to the top. I can dive deeper. And then another thing that the tool used, which was really cool, is that it remembers any fixes that you used in the past to solve the issue, and it will make that recommendation, first and foremost. So like server in
oh wow,
Houston,
okay,
went down. It's related to the server in Austin that went down. Um, this happened, 4 months ago. This was the resolution that we recommended. And, per the operator that, solved the issue said it worked. So maybe start there. And so, like, something that could take, hours or days to fix can now be fixed in a matter of minutes.
That's very interesting. Wow. So basically all this work is being done by AI, and then you can kind of decide. I mean, obviously it's saving time, one,
Oh,
but
yeah.
but two, like I feel like, human error sometimes does come into that, and there's not going to be any of that with what this AI can do for that company. That's very interesting.
Yeah, but you still need, and that's the kind of going back to like the role of humans in AI. Like you still need that operator to
Yeah.
to say yes, this is an actual issue, or to say no, it's not.
Yeah.
Because as reliable as AI can be, like AI is only as good as like the prompts or the way we're programming it to work. And we expect it to learn over time, but it still needs us to kind of control the reins, and then for us to make the actions upon it. So if it's
Yes.
like the server is down, this is the solution, but you as the operator have to initiate it. And so or like report it to another team who's going to fix it.
Yeah.
um so it's you still need like human intervention, you still need people. But now it's just gonna maybe instead of having 100,000 people in these network operation centers in different parts of the country or different part of the world, you've got a couple in a couple locations. So
Right.
it definitely saves time, it saves energy, it's efficiency.
Right, completely, I agree. I think what you said about prompt engineering, I kind of want to get into that as well. So yeah, I know you probably heard about the prompt engineer title. I want your thoughts on that. What do you think about prompt engineering, and how do you think that's gonna evolve in the future?
Yeah, so I think you're going to have a lot of different roles that like you don't have right now that are going to come out of like AI, like like prompt engineering, AI ethics officer.
Right.
Like we have like
Yes.
I 10 years ago, you didn't have like chief diversity officers. You have them
Yeah.
now. So like, and I think, same thing with like a chief ethics officer, a chief AI ethics officer. You're going to start seeing some of these roles that are coming to light based on, big companies that are going to need to make sure they're treading very carefully with their use of AI and ethically. You're going to have an AI
Yes.
like model trainer. So someone who's like dedicated to actually like so you've got this huge like large language model. How do we tweak it to make sure that we're capturing the prompts from users? How do we make sure that we're continuing to like because one thing I think that like AI is missing right now is a lot of some of the human emotions like
Yeah.
sarcasm,
Yeah.
manipulation,
Mhm.
honesty, some of those things that like, like an AI tool may not be as like, quick to get. Like these are where like your AI model trainers or AI behavior analysts are going to be able to come in and, tweak the models, make them more efficient. And so yeah, so I mean, just, AI voice generators.
Yeah.
Like I think if you remember with like ChatGPT, they were trying to use, or was it ChatGPT? Yeah, ChatGPT. They were using Scarlett Johansson's voice, and she got mad and like
They
sued them.
did. That was a long time ago. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think she sued, right? Did she not sue,
I
or?
I think she either threatened to sue or did sue. I'm not
She didn't
sure,
want
but
to at the time because she knew about the kind of implications, and she was like, "No, I don't want my voice to be the voice of AI in the future." Because
yeah.
she
So
understood that AI it is what it is. Like it's genuinely like the greatest leap in technology that we've had in a while. And now if she was the voice for ChatGPT, could you imagine how, like, if she said yes to that, what they would have done with that? And I feel like Scarlett, her voice would be everywhere, just all the
everywhere, yeah,
time.
it'd be like Siri.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I definitely
but
think
you're gonna have
that's
to
something to think
use.
about.
You're probably gonna have voice AI voice coaches, so like your AI doesn't sound like a robot; it sounds like a human, but it
Right,
doesn't sound like a human that we know. So
right.
you can't get sued for using that voice.
Do we you think we need sarcasm in AI voice? bots? Do you think you need sarcasm, compassion, empathy, charisma? Those are all.
I think that's the goal. I mean, the goal, for AI is to, to take as much off of a human's plate as possible. And I think
Right.
part of that is being able to replicate what humans can do. So if you're thinking about you're creating like a chat agent or AI agent, if I chat with someone and maybe I get a little snarky, and like they don't pick up on that, and like maybe like like, hey, have I helped you with everything? I'm your AI bot. Have I helped you with everything? And I'm like, oh yeah, you've been great. And they're like, okay, well, goodbye. I've done everything I need, and now I'm pissed because, like, I was being sarcastic. You haven't helped me because,
Okay.
you can't pick up on my tone and my, you don't have
Okay.
those human emotions. Then,
Okay.
I'm now I want to call in, and the whole point of the chat box is kind of null. So I do think you're going to need some of those human characteristics.
I think understanding human characters is great because if honestly for me, right, I think I completely agree with you. If I get sarcastic with my AI agent in the future because he's not making my reservation on time or something, and I'm like, bro, like thank you for nothing. You know what I mean? Whatever. If
Yeah.
it understands if it understands that, that's great. But if it comes back at me with sarcasm, then I feel like if it talks to me about something, it's like, oh, well, you've been great too. Like if it like chats me like that too, I would kind of freak out. I feel like I'd be like, that's
Yeah.
crazy, you know. Uh, but look,
Also, I
that's a
mean,
problem for the future.
you've got like AI, like, relationship apps, where people are, having relationships,
That's
um,
crazy.
using AI. So yeah, I feel like you definitely want it, somewhere, like, with your AI companion, like
Mhm.
if I'm having, if I'm using one of those services, and, I want the person, or the person I'm talking to, like, to be able to kind of match my conversational flow.
I think that's the only case that I would be okay with that. But I am not going to be using any AI companion service. That's just for me. That's still a little bit too much. But if I theoretically was someone that was using one of those services, I guess I could see that could be a case. But that look this all comes into where AI ethics comes into play because I feel like in that field specifically, the AI companion field is where we're going to see a lot of ethics concerns
Yeah.
because who is to blame? Is it the company that made the AI? Is it the company that trained the AI to then say what it said to someone to then something happen? Like there's a lot of ifs, there's a lot of ifs, there's a lot of who is to blame, what's the problem? Like the like what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest problem we face, with using AI is, making sure we're, doing things ethically. But I mean, like right now, like, with I think it's what is it, Title 206 or 20 something, where you can't blame like social media platforms for things that are like, posted or said. I mean, I think you're going to have a lot of that with AI. I think you're going to have to kind of agree to the terms of use when using certain platforms, that like, hey, you're using this tool, but you're doing so at your own, risk and peril. But we do have to, but like, I mean, you're talking about like stealing original works. We're talking about, creating deep fakes, bias in LLMs, stealing data to train your models. Like if taking data from walled gardens, you're not paying for that data. Like, that's theft. Using AI to create weapons.
Yeah,
It's like there's a ton of murky water that, we're gonna walk into, and that's why, that's where it comes, we can talk about like regulation. Should we have regulation? Should we not? I think we're so new into this space. I think you kind of have to catch things as they come,
yeah,
because I think if you have a blanket set of regulation, I think you're going to diminish some of the innovations in AI, whereas some of our competitors won't. So, like, if we don't want to use AI in creating weapons, do we think some of our adversaries are going to feel the same way? No, I think they're going to use AI, and then now, are we a threat, or now are they a threat, to, harming us because they have this advanced technology and weapons that we don't have. So it's yeah, it's that's it's it's going to be some interesting times ahead when it comes to those sort of things. But yeah, I mean, as far as like creating original works, I definitely think that should be protected.
Yeah.
Deep fakes, those are. I feel like that's one of the things that's kind of scares me the most, and not so much for like our generation. And I say our generation, like I'm not probably like 10 years older than you, but like our parents, grandparents who like we
Right.
finally got them okay with using the internet and like maybe
Yeah.
banking on the internet, and now
Yes.
you've got like deep fakes. Like
Oh, they're not gonna tell.
they're
Exactly.
gonna
Yeah,
have no
they're gonna
idea.
have
They're
no
gonna have
idea.
no idea.
They don't
Like
understand when I show a meme to my parents, they still don't get like, who is that your friend? It's not my friend. It's a random person. Like this is just a meme. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I couldn't even imagine because I was just talking about this. I was talking about this on the first podcast we did because I don't know if you follow basketball and all, but sorry, not basketball, football. Talking about how after the Eagles won the championship, I saw a Saquon Barkley edit of him like he's like, yeah, I wanted this, or like just completely out of he was like cussing like crazy, and
crashing like the Giants or something.
I genuinely believed it. I was like, this can't be real. And
Yeah,
then I noticed that it was AI, and that's when it hit me. I was like, wow, it's actually getting so much better. Because I remember
yeah,
the beginning days of deepfakes and the beginning days of what AI was, and we could very easily tell that okay,
yeah,
look, that looks good, but it's AI. That was
yeah,
my first time seeing something made by AI and then saying, was that AI? That's
yeah,
crazy because I did not
yeah.
think it was.
Yeah, no, I see a
And
bunch of those. I think I saw like one of like the men's like USA hockey team like trashing like Canada when like earlier in the tournament we beat Canada like 3-1 and then like got in
yeah,
two fights with them and like won those fights and like in his press conference you could tell it was AI because like the way his mouth was moving, but aside from that it was like pretty much him and he was just like, yeah, Canada this, Canada that. I'm glad our
they're
guys went out there.
whatever.
It's stuff you
They're
would never hear
like
like at a press conference. So like yeah, I
crazy.
mean, and stuff like that is like entertaining and funny, but if you know it's real, but like,
Yeah.
like you said, like, I think about like in politics where like, we're such, divided, as a people between one party or the other. So if you have, one party on, the left creating a deep fake about someone on the
Yeah.
right, let's say someone creates a deep fake about Donald Trump and,
Yeah.
you're going to get like the whole world up in arms. The stock market could go down
Yes.
all because of a deep fake that may sound like him and it might be something he said but he actually
It's
never said it, so
very much a possibility
it's
in the future.
it's
I can see it
dangerous.
happening already. I can see it happening like literally tomorrow. Like
Oh yeah,
it's it's kind of scary how good it's getting.
yeah,
And
yeah.
uh
I saw a video of they played like a recording and it was like a deep fake of this young girl maybe like 18 or so calling her parents saying, hey, I need money, I'm in trouble, something happened, like just send me like money, like send me money to like my Venmo account or something, and it wasn't her Venmo account, and the parents are like freaking out. They're like, hold on, I'm getting your dad, like we'll send you the money like right now, like like that's the stuff that like I worry about, like my parents like being like tricked into.
see exactly in this case, right? In this exact case that you mentioned, who is at fault? Is it the AI company that made the AI? Is it the people that trained the AI? Is it the AI itself? Like
Well, it's I mean, I guess how do you? So obviously, I think the people who are creating it are obviously at fault, but like that's some shell group that you're never gonna find, that's hiding in the depths, of the internet.
yeah.
But like if they're
They
using
don't want to be
tools,
seen.
yeah. But if they're using tools that like are widely available, like any open source tool, like I mean, are you gonna hold that company liable? Like I'm sure
It's the
they've
people
got
that did it in the
thousands
company.
of like people using their software. Like are they going to be able to like track everybody, and how are they going to be able to tell that like this video that you created was nefarious and maybe not part of a movie that someone was creating about a
Hmm.
girl who got kidnapped, so it's going to be really hard for. And again, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier about like if you put regulations on things, you're going to stifle like innovation.
Yeah.
um so like yeah, like if you all right, so this happened, and some young girl's parents sent some African prince $500 because they had a very convincing video of their daughter needing $500. Does that mean then that company either goes away or they limit what you can do? And if you limit what you can do, then are you even going to use that app anymore? So
Yeah, yeah. Well, like we talked about like before. I think the AI ethics, that whole discussion, that whole field is going to be like a genuine like it's going to be a money making field. One,
yeah.
two, it's going to be a very sought after field. I haven't seen any like there's not going to be like a job for that. Like I mean there could be like one or two somewhere, but I think that that's going to be such a huge field because we genuinely have to figure out where to regulate, where to let innovation, where to not, stop innovation by regulating, how to do it in certain ways. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Well, I think
Um,
that's where the innovation comes in, and that's where instead of like regulation, you have even more innovation. Where like maybe you create a company that it's like an AI security firm, like so you're monitoring people's accounts to make sure that like if they're wiring money to somebody, it's actually that person. Like we have cybersecurity. Like
yeah,
we didn't have cybersecurity 50 years ago, but we have
we do
cybersecurity is
now.
probably one of the most sought after jobs right now
Yeah,
because everything because of the landscape, like
right.
if you have you like I feel like it was the last couple of years where like you were hearing like hackers are breaking into like some of our infrastructure, some of our energy infrastructure, like
Yeah,
that is like detrimental. So like
right.
being able to and you have like you have private security, you have like companies like ADT that protect your home and and protect what you're doing online. I think that's going to extend to AI. So like maybe you have it installed on your phone, so if next time you get like a call from your daughter needing $500, like they send up like an alarm like
Hey, that's AI. Don't take that.
we think this is AI. We're using AI tools that are similar to the AI tools they're using, and it turns out this is not your daughter. This is some African prince.
Whoa. You know
It's like,
what? There could be like an app like that, you know what I'm saying? Like AI
yeah,
tracker or like, an AI wellness app. I don't know, like a AI checker or something that can just
yeah,
like see what's wrong, see what's right, tell you what it is. That would be huge.
yeah,
Wow, okay, yeah, I think no, these are all great points. I mean, we can go on about ethics like for hours. I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. But
yeah.
I do want to ask you kind of like a general consensus of like well we've talked about everything basically. Like ethics, talked about, what fields are going to need AI, what how it's changing. Where do you personally see us going in the future with AI? Let's say like at least like 5 years down, where do you see us going?
I think there's going to be a lot of development in robotics. So like you're already starting to see some of these like personal AI personal assistants that kind of look like butlers. I think that's going to be big. I think for like farming and agriculture, I think that's going to be big as well. I mean,
Yeah.
think about like the tractor. I think we're going to have a bunch of like AI bots like in the fields, like doing some of the things that even tractors can't do. Some of the more manual picking,
Hmm.
um, and so some of that, and I think that's going to be huge. More efficiencies in like assembly lines, and maybe even like like kind of shelf stocking. Some of those like very like kind of mundane activities that can be replaced by a robot. I think you're going to see a lot of that in the next
Right.
5 years.
Oh gosh, perfect. So huge, huge advances in robotics. Definitely, I think. There's a lot of robotic. Well, when I'm making content for the Instagram, I'm seeing a lot of robotic content, and that
Yeah.
is very true because I see like Boston Dynamics, and I see all these other companies that are a lot of Chinese companies as well that are making huge advancements in robotics. You're seeing like
Huge.
humanoid robots. I've seen one where they've basically programmed a robot that has all of the kind of muscle tendons that a human has. And there's code that runs that makes this robot like move genuinely like you see in the movies.
Yeah.
And this is gonna happen sooner than you think.
Yeah. I mean, and just think about how that's just going to change like um landscape. Just think about like like war. Like we just announced
That's
that we're creating like we're gonna buy a whole bunch of F-34 planes, and like you're thinking like why are we doing that when we should just be doing unmanned aircrafts? Like you see the rise of drones and how cheap you can make a drone. So you're going to spend $500 million on a plane that
yeah.
is that could get blown up by a drone, or like you have to put a person in that plane and risk their lives. Like
Logistically, there's a lot to think about when it comes to that, for sure.
yeah, I mean, and going back to robotics, I saw something that China unveiled that essentially looked like an attack dog that had like a machine gun on it.
Oh
Like
my goodness, man.
you're not gonna have a field army if you've got that on the other side. You're
No,
not going out into the field or into a building in the middle of the desert like when
yeah,
you've got like 20 dogs with machine guns. Like,
like literally
nope.
bloodhounds, but like
Yeah.
as a robot. We're like the some of these movies are genuinely
Oh
gonna
yeah.
be coming true. So
Yeah.
it's just so interesting, I feel like, to think about this kind of stuff. I mean, when a big advancement does happen and it gets famous and popular,
Yeah.
there's gonna be some kind of backlash. I think that's gonna be a time. Either
Sure.
I don't know, either like something like a dog that like a robotic dog that can, shoot whatever, right? If that goes viral, then we're gonna talk about is this actually happening? Like, is this real? You know what I mean? Like our conception of what's real is has been changing so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And
I mean, dude,
look,
I remember the movie Dick Tracy, where like he's talking on his like phone or talking on his watch and like making things happen. And now like we've got, an Apple Watch,
yeah, look at that.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
that
it's
easy.
yeah, it's just like yeah, it's incredible like and it's just going to get quicker and quicker. Like that,
Yeah.
from Dick Tracy to like the Apple Watch was, decades, but like, you know, from, you know, from army soldiers like in the trenches to dogs with machine guns on their back. Like it's gonna
Oh
be
my
very
goodness,
quick.
man.
Gonna be
I don't
very
know. I
quick.
don't know for the dogs with machine guns, but like we're definitely we're getting somewhere with this kind of stuff,
Yeah,
and, and also deep
or
fakes,
the
right?
sharks with lasers. If you remember the Austin Powers movie.
That's gonna happen. Like
Oh
tomorrow, I
yeah.
promise you. I'll probably
If
send you
there's a use
something
case for it, like it'll happen.
if
And
there's a
that's
use
the
case
other
for it.
and kind of tying this back into like where we need humans, like we need humans to be creative to come up with some of these things, like I'm sure some human was like, how do we you know keep human lives like safe, in times of war? How do we,
Yeah,
like let's or what if we don't have a population that's physically and mentally fit to
yep,
serve in the armed services? All right,
yeah.
well, we've
Like
got
Wall-E.
yeah.
I've always talked
Yep.
about. I literally talked about Wall-E. I think I mentioned that the second podcast. It's coming back. It's gonna be still coming back over and over again. I mean, I think that's just what a movie. It was made so long ago, and then now we're making connections now. I think that's incredible. But
Yeah.
I do want to ask you about what we just talked. I want to ask you about so the human interaction. What kind of human skills? I mean, we're already in an AI kind of world already, kind of.
Yep.
Not to an extent that it's going to be in the future for sure, but we're already seeing the kind of beginnings of it. Where do you see, like, so what kind of human skills do you think that are going to be like sought after in the future?
I mean, we're still going to need coders. People have to be able to create, these LLMs, be able to, adjust and modify these LLMs. But we're really going to need thinkers.
Yeah,
That's going to be like the thing that really separates, who's going to do well in this AI revolution and who's not. Like, who's going to be able to think of the next, AI tool, and use AI in a way that can, benefit humanity. And as more and more people are able to use AI, like, there's going to be like some of those people that kind of the cream rises to the top. So like you're gonna, for whatever you think about Elon Musk, like he's got like he's the CEO of four companies, and like he's doing some very impressive things with with Starlink, with his SpaceX, being able to catch like a like a missile booster like on like chopsticks, so you don't have to like throw that multi-million-dollar piece of equipment away. Like we
Mm,
need thinkers like that who are like going to challenge the status quo, and AI is going to be the tool that they use to do it.
right.
We're really going to come into a time where we have like very limited um, things holding us back, limited constraints. And I think that's like, so people who are going to be on the forefront of of thinking and creating these next AI tools. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's not talked about a lot because I think the it's kind of the fact that creative thinkers and these kind of people are going to be sought after is definitely diminished and clouded over from
yeah.
the fear of how much AI is going to take from us. And I think that's a very good point to make because even though AI will take some of that automation away, there's going to be thinking and creativity that is needed from us even more in the future now, and even more that we can provide.
I think maybe the one thing that I feel like people may want to know or begin to think about is what they can do,
Mhm.
um, to stay on top of things.
Yeah,
I think like Googling and finding like the thought leaders that you find credible is important. Paying attention to people who are just talking about the stuff. People like you and I, like paying attention to the work that like our consultants are doing at Gen AIX. Like, I think that's going to be able to, and just some of the trainings that we're going to come out with down the pike. Um, I think are going to be very helpful to people who are who look at like this huge lake of AI and like want to make sense of it. Like you don't have
yeah,
to boil the ocean. Like start small. Learn about these topics. Take an AI training course. And then see what avenues of AI really excite you the most, and dive in head first. Because
yeah.
it's going to be people like us who are going to create the next generation of thought leaders and AI geniuses. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so
perfect. I
I'm
love that.
excited for that and excited for them, and yeah,
I love that. Perfect. Well, that's all the time we got for today. Once again, thank you so much, Zach, for an amazing conversation today.
actually
I
great.
know that people are going to take a lot of great things from today, and I do appreciate you being on the podcast. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Yeah, it's great talking to you. Have a good one.
Perfect. Yeah. So, but before our viewers, I want to make sure that we, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please check out our podcast. We're going to have videos out every week on Wednesday. Make sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We do have webinars every other week on Wednesday as well. So please check that out and see you guys next week. Thank you.